handle this matter. We are tired of this issue of Akwa Ibom. Yesterday it was Akwa Ibom. Last week it was Akwa Ibom. Today it's Akwa Ibom. And Mr. President, I want to say we are all believers on true federalism. In fact, the PDP is strengthening its resolve to bring about restructuring which will enhance true federalism in this country. For us to be getting involved in matters that affect the states, I think it's quite improper. We shouldn't be doing that in this chamber.
Distinguished Senator Baraj, I took time to listen to you. I think that the most important aspect for all of us is for us to defend this democracy, irrespective of which state that's involved. We were here where there was an invasion of this parliament, and anywhere where there's an invasion of parliament, irrespective wherever in this country, we must stand and say what is right. It's not whether it's Akwa Ibom, it could be anywhere. If he is just updating us on what has happened since then. At the end of the day, we'll still refer the matter for the chairman of the police to do the work that has to be done. I think, but if there's an update, he has to just tell us the update. When he finishes telling us the update, we'll move on. But I think that Albert, just finish your update and then we can move on and let the police. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I came under 43, Mr. President, under officer. Mr. President, I have with me here the court ruling and the enrollment order from the Federal High Court at Akwa Ibom. I'm going to lay before the Senate, Mr. President. Mr. President, I also have with me here photograph of militants with fake army uniforms and AK-47 rifles. I'm also going to lay it here, Mr. President. I have with me here pictures of the thugs that in 24 hours. We do not need the Commissioner of Police, Mr. President, because the Commissioner of Police is not there to maintain peace and order, is there to cause chaos and mayhem in line with the plans and programs of the APC in Akwa Ibom State.
Okay, come on, Lee.
I'll say this. I was elected to speak to my people. If I'm not allowed to speak to them,
Come and lay your report. Come and lay the report.
Order. I'm not talking about order. Point of order. Point of order.
Senator Chairman, Police, please, the sooner you can have this report sent back to us on your findings of what Senator Kara, if you can make sure that within the next 48 hours, you look into this matter, invite the police, and let us have a report exactly what has happened. We've heard the representation of the Senator Bassi on this matter. We've all heard on the issue of the invasion of police, whether it is true, it's not true. But this parliament this Senate must stand for the fact that we must protect the legislative arm of government with no interference. But we will not conclude until we get your report to establish But any issue that suggests that a minority of members are being supported by security agents, there's no way that we should be seen to stand for that and say. But so your report will guide us. If you ensure within 48 hours, let us have a report to confirm what exactly happened in Akwa Ibom. All right. Leader of the Senate.
Point of order.
Point of order, Mohammed Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mohammed Hassan, representing Yobe South. Mr. President, I would like to come under Order 42 and 52. With your kind permission, I would like to read. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Order 52, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the 81, 82, 83, and especially Order 92 of the Senate Standing Orders, and how they have circumscribed the exercise of the powers of the National Assembly and its committee in the process of lawmaking. The Senate observes that by the provisions of the Constitution and the standing orders, unless a bill is passed through first, second, and third readings, such bills cannot be said to be validly passed into law. Again, the Senate observes that by the provisions of Order 79 and 96 of the Senate Standing Rules, unless a budget is presented as a bill and passed by the National Assembly through first, second, and third readings, no agency of government can spend out of the public purse. The Senate acknowledges that the Senate procedure of referral of bills for appropriation for the committees with oversight jurisdiction on a subject matter is consistent with the Constitution and the standing order of the Senate. The Senate further observes that only the various chambers of the National Assembly and not the committees can validly pass a bill, including a money bill, into law, and the committees are only there to advise the plenary on issues that may be referred to them from time to time by the plenary. I'm convinced that the relationship between the committees and the Senate is that of an agent and the principal, and that the agent cannot do without, what the principal has not given it power to do. Furthermore, the powers of the committees to whom appropriation duties have been referred to can only advise the Senate by its report, and until the Senate in plenary considers and passes such bill cannot be acted upon by any agency, nor can it be regarded as conferring any form of authority to act as law. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I would like to go to the specific now. You will recall that 7 months ago, the budget of the Nigerian Ports Authority was presented to this Senate. And since then, the committee swung into action, and very serious observations were raised at the committee level. One of such was that NPA recorded a gross revenue of 303 billion naira. Meanwhile, its expenditure for that year was 125 billion naira. Therefore, there was 177 billion naira operating surplus that was recorded by Nigerian Ports Authority. Not a single dime was reported to have been remitted either to the Consolidated Revenue Fund or to the General Reserve Fund. We made these fundamental observations. I raised this with the management of Ports Authority. Till today, 6 months, we have not had anything from Ports Authority. So the question is, where is this 177 billion? It has not been reported. 7 months after, we have not heard from the committee, we have not heard from the management. And I think this singular prayer is that this Senate should look into the matter and get to the root cause and let Nigerians and this Senate know what's going on with the Ports Authority budget. Thank you very much.
Any contributions? Yes, the Deputy Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. The issue raised by distinguished Senator Hassan will have been right if the alleged accrual of the budget that was reported by NTA was the derived one. Mr. President, we all know, those of us who have had the privilege of reading the ordinary principles of accounting know that we have what we call passive income. We have what we call derived income. And then we have what we call accrued. It is only the accrued income that can validly be said to be money that has been realized and is in the kitty of an organization. But if, for example, the organization believes that by June or July, it should be able to realize certain amount of money, and that money is given, but it has not accrued to the account. Was it the actual? You know, they are deliberately distracting me, Mr. President. There is nothing like actual. Is that what we have? Is that a derived income? I don't have telephone. So I think it's important that, he has said, in trying to find out this, it's important that before any action is taken, we come to the conclusion that this is accrued income, not passive or derived. And I'm therefore of the opinion that it may be premature for us at this stage to attempt to come to conclusion simply based on the actual figures that we are giving. This is Mr. President, you know that I'm a lawyer, and that is the best that I have read. So, but I do know that I read taxation law, and a part of taxation law teaches us to know whether an income can be classified as passive or accrued or derived. And it is only the derived income can form the basis of what Mr. Hassan is referring to as actual income. So I think that let us not be in a haste determine this matter based on the figures bandied by my brother and friend, distinguished Senator Hassan. Thank you very much, sir.
Senator Mao.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Mao Arpo Wabumwabia North. Mr. President, at his preambles, he talked about the procedure and process of lawmaking and operations of the parliament, which is through committees. And if there is an issue that has to do with the committee, we have a committee chairman, and I'm privileged to know that he's a member of that committee. So this issue should be brought at the committee level. Then it's the committee that will bring it up, not an individual. I think we should do things rightly. I believe that is the right way to go. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chairman.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Mao had already said my mind. We normally meet at the committee level. We had already considered 2018 budget. We are harmonizing with the House, and as soon as that is completed, we will present it to the chamber. Secondly, Section 82 of the Constitution allows agencies and government to spend money based on, in line with the previous budget. Maybe that is what it's referring to. There is no expenditure. We are going for oversight on the 3rd. The timetable has been issued. Maybe the member has not, is not aware. It is when you go to oversight, like Mao said, we always meet as a committee, and there is no day he presented any issue pertaining to this matter. All members are here. They can witness. So he should not come here to the chamber and present something that has not been presented to the committee as a member of the committee. Maybe because he has not been attending meeting of committees, that is why he is not aware of what is happening.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I think I need to make further clarifications on my motion. It is very, very clear. The issues raised at the committee level were very, very fundamental. And I think there's nobody disputing that. What we are saying is that there is an operating surplus of 177 billion naira, and the committee has raised this concern with the management of the Nigerian Ports Authority. This management appeared before this committee 6 months ago. 6 months ago. We've not heard from this committee. Where is this 177 billion naira? It's not about the process. What we are now saying is, let the management of Ports Authority respond to those queries. And for how long will that take? And I think the committee should be up and doing. This is what I'm saying.
All right, distinguished Senator Mohammed Hassan, I think this matter is pretty straightforward. Let the committee, as you say, Chairman has already planned for the committee to sit. Let the committee look into the issues raised by Senator Mohammed Hassan, especially as regards whether there is or isn't any operating surplus. If there is the operating surplus, why has now operating surplus been sent to the Council? All right, thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished and respected colleagues, Mr. President, let me formally inform the Senate that very distinguished Senator Joshua Lidani, representing Gombe South, is defecting from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressive Congress. Congratulations, and more congratulations. Mao, please, allow him. is the presentation of the report.
Order, please. Order, please. We are waiting for more.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues.
You take on the motion moving now. But you see the report.
Order, please. Order.
Order, please. Order, please. Order, please.
Mr. President,
I've been working on that thing now.
very distinguished senators, the first business of the day is the presentation of the report.
No, it's the defection of the
delegation to Kogi State Governor on the attempted assassination of Senator Dino Melai.
We are waiting for you.
Mr. President, you may wish to invite one of the leading lights of Nigerian legislature, the Deputy President of the Senate, and by the grace of God, very soon joining the Sungu Senator Ike, the Kwarmadu, the Ikoa, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Yes.
I so move. Our great leader.
Deputy Senate President.
Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, I respectfully move that the Senate do not receive the report of the Senate delegation to the Executive Governor of Kogi State on the attempted assassination of Senator Dino Melai.
Senator Samayamu.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Samayamu Imo is arise to second the motion heavily moved by His Excellency the Government. I so move. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the delegation to Kogi State Governor on the attempted assassination of Senator Dino Melai. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. There is a just will come and lead report. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of the report of the ad hoc committee on economic waste at Nigeria Customs Service. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Dino Melai, Chairman of the ad hoc committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Dino Melai.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Melai, representing the marginalized and oppressed people of Kogi State, including unpaid civil servants, may I move the motion to present the report of the ad hoc committee on economic waste at the Nigerian Customs Service.
Senator Gijo Yamaware.
Mr. President, sir, I hereby second the motion to lay the report.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive report of the ad hoc committee on economic waste at Nigeria Customs Service. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Dino Melai, come and lay your report.
President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Yusuf Saidu against the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, for non-payment of his salary and entitlements by the group. B, petition from Mr. Musa Adesina Akinyemi against the Nigerian Shippers Council for his dismissal from the service of the council without any wrongdoing. And C, petition from Mr. CAC Joseph KSJI against the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital Enugu for alleged unjust retirement from service. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyau, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Samuel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, Sam Anyau, Imo East. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions in respect of A, petition from Yusuf Saidu against the Bureau of Public Enterprises for non-payment of his salary and entitlements by the Bureau. B, petition from Mr. Musa Adesina Akinyemi against Nigerian Shippers Council for his dismissal from the service of the council without any wrongdoing. And C, petition from Mr. CAC Joseph.
Senator Kaura.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Tijani Kaura. I represent Zamfara North Senatorial District. I rise to second that the Senate do receive the reports on Committee on Ethics and Privileges on Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Yusuf Saidu against Bureau of Public Enterprises for non-payment of salaries and entitlements by the Bureau. B, petitions from Mr. Musa Adesina Akinyemi against the Nigerian Shippers Council. And C, petition from Mr. CAC Joseph against the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital. I so second, Mr. President. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Yusuf Saidu against the BPE for non-payment of the salary and entitlements by the Bureau. B, petition from Musa Adesina Akinyemi against the Nigerian Shippers Council for his dismissal from the service of the council without any wrongdoing. And C, petition from CAC Joseph against the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital Enugu for alleged unjust retirement from service. Those in favor that will receive this three reports say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Samuel, come and lead the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the screening of the nomination of Olani Kekun Olukoyede Esquire as Secretary of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Distinguished senators will recall that the request was referred to the committee on Wednesday, the 17th day of October 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Chukwuka Utazi, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Okay. Yes, Senator Issa Misal. At which point of order are you coming on? Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President, and there was a resolution of the Senate for the committee yesterday to sit down and look at the report so that we will bring it today for consideration. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, if you are telling me that I am a member of this committee, Senator Dino Melai is a member of this committee, Senator Matthew Monsurat, Senator Mustafa, all of us were waiting, and there is a waiting to be called to deliberate on this report. And we know that there are so many petitions concerning this nominee. And this nominee is going to hold a very sensitive office in the EFCC. I think it is not right for us to just do a shortcut in screening this individual. The rights of the committee members should be given. If there is any petition against this man, let us look at it. If there is nothing against the petition, we throw it out. If there is nothing, and the resolution of the Senate yesterday was for us as a committee to sit down. And the procedure of this committee, when we are sitting down, the clerk normally sends a letter, normally come to our office, call us. I don't know what the interest is. Right now, as I'm sitting here, the chairman came with a document that me and Senator Dino, we should sign for him. I think what we are trying to do is not right. We should step down this report. Let the committee sit down for us to deliberate on this. If a man, why are we avoiding to screening this person? Why are we avoiding him? What is the interest concerning the Secretary of EFCC that we don't know? If the EFCC, they are doing investigation on individuals, why can't we perform our constitutional right enshrined in the Constitution by Section 88 for us to do it? Why are we afraid to do the right thing? So I think the right thing is for us. Let us sit down, unless if we don't have any right in that committee. We are founding members of that committee. It was the resolution. Go and see the votes and proceedings of yesterday. Thank you very much.
Yes, Chairman, Senator Tazi.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North Senatorial District of Enugu State. Mr. President, you know I'm not given to...
Address me.
Mr. President, I'm not given to making response to trivialities and frivolities in the floor of the Senate. Mr. President, this committee, the Senate works in committees. And the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crime is one of such committees. And it is right, even to inform the Senate here, that the quorum of our committees is 3. We give notice of meeting. I have notice of meeting given on 24th of October for this meeting. I have a copy of it here. I sent it to the member who is trying to mislead this chamber here. We sent it, my clerk sent it to everybody. Mr. President, you go to other paper where we advertise the notice of our meeting, the votes and proceedings. It was also for 24th advertised, and every of our members were also informed about this committee. On the same day we wanted to go for this screening, Mr. President, I also asked our colleagues, we are going for chambers for this exercise. And when we came over there, only 3 people were in attendance. And we did the business of this committee and concluded our activities. And came up with a report, which we have here. Yesterday, I brought this in up here. The member who was absent in our committee stopped this committee, Senate, from doing the right thing. He was not in the meeting. He shouldn't have been there. He couldn't. He was telling this Senate that he participated in the screening of ICPC. Mr. President, we have 2 reports that are coming. This one is just coming. The second one is going to come. That is ICPC, where he participated. He was never there. And he came here to stop our business of our activity here. And Mr. President, we have a report here. Let the Senate do the needful. And that is, consider what we have done here. Unless you say the committee should no longer work, and that 3 does not form quorum for committee to meet, then you direct me and order our rules. We change it so that it will suit my absentee colleagues who are not in a meeting tomorrow, yesterday. So I want this committee to be guided and done, and let us do the right thing here. Thank you so much.
Senator Dilumelaya.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. Mr. President, I quote item number 9 of our vote and proceedings of today. The last paragraph there reads, by the leave of the Senate, item number 9, page number 1074. 1074. Yes, number 26. It said, Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes report of the confirmation for appointment as the Secretary of the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, EFCC. Motion made that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes and confirmation of Olanipekun Olukayode Esquire for appointment as Secretary for the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, EFCC, by Senator Chukwuka G. Utazi, Enugu North. Question put and agreed to. Reports laid and presented. Debates. Then, by the leave of the Senate, the chairman was mandated to meet committee members for their endorsements and to report the next legislative day. Mr. President, this was not carried out. The mandate of this House, the resolution of this House yesterday, was for the committee to meet and then discuss and endorse. That did not happen. And I know Chukwuka Utazi is an honorable Nigerian, and on his honor, he knows that the committee did not meet yesterday. So I will now ask that we carry out the resolution of this Senate by the committee meeting, and then meeting the resolution of this Senate, then we can now come back and make our presentation.
Okay.
This is the resolution of the Senate yesterday, and if we are lawmakers, we cannot be lawbreakers. The committee must meet. The committee must meet as agreed yesterday. Then we can now make our report to the Senate. If we do anything short of that, then we are breaking the resolution of the Senate ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, distinguished colleagues, you all remember that yesterday, based on the procedure the chairman had come up with, the chairman could present the report. The chairman had formed a quorum. It was out of respect for our colleague that said he had not seen the report that we said we should stand it down for a day so that there will be further consultation. It does not mean that they had to agree. They could still take a position or take their position. It was out of the fact that they got up and said yesterday you had not seen the report. We agreed that, okay, for the purpose of that, the chairman should please show you the report and see the report and bring it back for today. It doesn't necessarily mean that you had to meet. So I think that we must follow our procedure, strictly follow our procedure. In as much as we have so Chairman, yes, Chairman.
Point of order, Mr. Mr. President. Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. President, for opportunity to speak second time on this very issue that should not take much of attention of this Senate. Mr. President, you out of courtesy, because there was no reason even to do anything otherwise. But out of courtesy, you asked that we extend the information to our colleagues. Yesterday, immediately after the sitting, all the reports, my clerk, is my clerk here? We packaged all the reports to their all offices. And look for this man who went for a public accounts committee oversight yesterday. He was not there. He was not there. Went for public accounts oversight yesterday. And today again he is coming here to keep us down here. This man who went for oversight the same. Mr. President, is either we want to do this job or not. If we want to do it, we'll do our job here.
Distinguished colleagues, I think we should make progress. Yeah, Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. I just want to appeal to our colleagues. I think this debate is completely unnecessary. The procedure in this parliament since 1999 is that when a committee comes up with their report, the first thing to be done is to lay it. That's called receiving the report. It's at that point, if there's any problem with the processes, that it comes up. But once it is laid, it becomes the property of the Senate. So I think at this rate, it's not about the committee any longer. What we need to do at this point, sir, is for the debate, for the report to be discussed, and then you put the question, and everybody will vote the way he wants.
Distinguished colleagues, I think that we must follow the procedure in as much as we want to get consensus on some of these issues, but at the end of the day, we must follow by the procedure. So I think what we'll now do is, Leader, since he has presented, for us to resolve in committee of the whole and consider the report.
I had wanted to guide this Senate on this particular issue. And if you permit me, I will do so, without any prejudice to whatever anybody would have said. First of all, if we look at our order 101, order 101, standing order 101, and with your permission, Mr. President, I read. The quorum at committee sittings shall be 1/3 of the membership provided the chairman in his absence, the vice chairman acting in that capacity is present. This committee has fulfilled that requirement. Secondly, if we look at 102G, page 128, every senator shall be permitted to indicate in a report that he or she dissents from a particular recommendation or comment within the report. the committee shall permit a member to express the reasons for such dissent. Mr. President, first of all, the quorum was met. If some of our colleagues were not present and they had the opportunity, as yesterday when we had to lay off the consideration, this should go full cycle. They can object to anything they don't want here. And let me also believe that our colleagues who are talking against this are not, in my judgment, completely against everything. So let's go the whole hog, pass this. If those who don't want this report to pass, based on the recommendations, they can vote and carry the day. But it is important, like the Deputy Senate President said, that we should be really adhered to all to the provisions of our rules, so that we are guided instead of some sentiments. Thank you very much.
Yeah, go ahead.
With that, I want to move that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report clause by clause.
Mr. President, I second the motion as moved by the leader.
Okay, what's your point of order?
Mr. President, I'm still coming under privilege. Yes.
We have a resolution.
We have a resolution. If the rules in this chamber has been changed, we should be able to know that we are laying precedence on other matters coming or matters behind us.
We have a resolution.
We have a resolution for us to meet as a committee. What is the interest concerning this matter? The chairman of the committee that was saying that we did not attend this meeting, let him tell me one meeting concerning anti-corruption that I have not attended, except this one. Why is this one different? There is no in any record any meeting on anti-corruption that I have not attended. Why is the chairman trying to avoid meeting on this matter? What is the interest?
Senator Misao, Mr. You have raised your observation. This matter has gone beyond that now. You have raised your observation. Okay, it's beyond the resolution.
We are not even respecting our own resolution. We are not even respecting our own resolution.
Okay.
Olushola. I'm one of the food vendor for the school, home-grown school feeding. This is where I do my cooking every morning before I take the food to school. I heard of it from the media. It was announced that those who are interested should apply. And I applied for it, I was screened, then I was chosen to serve. Then the financial aspects of it, I now benefit from it, unlike when I was idle at home. Apart from that, the homegrown school feeding has exposed me to meeting a lot of people. Thereby, my own business as a caterer can now increase, where I'm now connected to a lot of people.
This is the network service of the NTA. We now join our outside broadcast crew for a live telecast. Please stay tuned.
Special guest of honor, Your Excellency, Muhammadu Buhari, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State, Honorable Alhaji Kashim Shettima, the Chairman of Senate and House of Representatives Committees on Defense and Army, members of the National Assembly here present, the Honorable Minister of Defense, Mansour Muhammad Tang Ali, other members of the Federal Executive Council here present, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Chief of Defense Staff, General A.G. Olanishakin, Nigerian Army Medal, our Chief Host, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General T.Y. Buratai, Nigerian Army Medal, Order of Military Merit, Brazil, representatives of the Chief of Naval Staff and the Chief of the Air Staff, as well as the Inspector General of Police, former Chief of Army Staff, Major General A.J. Kazur, retired, Head of Federal Security and Paramilitary Agencies here present, our guest lecturer, Lieutenant General C.I. Obiako, retired, who was also former military advisor to the Secretary General of the United Nations, members of Borno State Legislative and Executive Councils here present, Commander Tradop, Principal Staff Officers at Defense and Services Headquarters, the Force Commander, Multinational Joint Task Force, Theater Commander, Operation Lafia Dole, and other commanders of military operations, Corps Commanders, General Officers.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, Nigerians. You're most welcome to the Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference 2018. This event is aimed at evaluating the major successes recorded by the Nigerian Army, especially in the area of training and operational activities in the year under review, with a view to making projections for the incoming year. Hence the theme, optimizing the operational efficiency of the Nigerian Army towards safeguarding democracy and national security in Nigeria. This program is being transmitted live from the Command Guest House of the Nigerian Army, Mimolari Cantonment, Maiduguri, and of course on the largest television network in Africa, the NTA. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, is the special guest of honor for this epoch-making occasion.
Lieutenant General T.Y. Buratai, to please come and present the welcome address. The Chief of Army Staff, sir. The special guest of honor, Your Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency the Executive Governor of Borno State, Honorable Kashim Shettima. Permit me to stand on already established protocol for want of time. If all individually and collectively acknowledge. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the Chief of Army Staff's Annual Conference 2018. I want to express my profound appreciation to His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari
for honoring us with his presence in spite of his very busy schedules. I'm also delighted to see in our midst national leaders, revered royal fathers, intellectuals, academics, technocrats, military strategists, and media moguls who have proved themselves in various spheres, both in Nigeria and abroad. I would also want to especially welcome representatives of the human rights groups and non-governmental organizations who have partnered with the Nigerian Army to improve civil-military relations and security in our country. To His Excellency, the Governor, and the great people of Borno, I say thank you for agreeing to host us in spite of the very short notice. Borno State became the obvious choice of this annual conference because of the recent happening and the desire of the Commander-in-Chief to personally identify with the troops and reassure them that their challenges is a thing of concern to him personally and to the government. The Chief of Army Staff's annual conference is usually an occasion that gives the Nigerian Army leadership an opportunity to appraise our activities within the year, assess our performance, and identify our shortcomings towards making informed decisions for the coming year. However, this year we shall not only conduct a retrospective assessment of our performance, but also consider how the Nigerian Army can better optimize its operations in support of democratic consolidation. This dual contemplation was the principal consideration that led to the selection of the theme for this year's annual conference, which is optimizing the operational efficiency of the Nigerian Army towards safeguarding democracy and national security in Nigeria. This theme was also crafted in a bid to assure all Nigerians and indeed the international community that the Nigerian Army will work optimally in conjunction with other security agencies to provide a secure environment for peace and unity. Our role in support of democracy is the focus of the special lecture for this conference. The lecture will be delivered later today and is titled Nigerian Army Management of Security Challenges in Support of Democracy in Nigeria, Issues and Prospects. The lecture is to be delivered by one of us, a retired officer par excellence, a former military advisor in the United Nations Department of Peacekeeping Operations, and a seasoned military professional in person of Lieutenant General Chikadibia Isaac Obiako, retired. I want to implore all our distinguished invited guests to please attend this lecture. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to inform you that over the 4 quarters of the year 2018, the Nigerian Army remains steadfast in the discharge of its constitutional responsibilities, as well as providing aid to civil authority. The nation's territorial integrity, particularly along our land borders, has not been breached as we continually maintain a posture to defend Nigeria's territorial rights and interests. Security relations with our neighbors, Benin, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger Republic, has remained relatively calm, except for increased trafficking of small arms and light weapons across the borders, among other cross-border criminalities. Internally, there has been recurring violence in some sections of the country, which constitute security threats to Nigeria's democracy and indeed existence. The causes for various crises in the country are often ideological, economic, political, religious, as well as ethnic, among many other reasons. These socio-political and socio-economic issues have direct bearing on the security climate of the country. I am pleased to report that internal security in Nigeria has improved drastically from where we were in the year 2015, when I took over command of the Nigerian Army. However, we recognize that there are potent threats that require us to continually review our operations. Hence, this conference will deliberate on ways through which the Nigerian Army can continue to enhance national security. The fight against the Boko Haram terrorists in the Northeast under Operation Lafia Dole has continued unabatedly, and the Nigerian Army, in conjunction with other services and security agencies, has dominated the area and continues to carry out sustained operations against the Boko Haram terrorists. The Nigerian Army is also collaborating with the Chadian military and the Cameroonian Defense Forces in the Northeast. We are currently conducting combined operations alongside the Cameroon Defense Forces, codenamed Operation Deep Punch 2, in order to maintain permanent presence in the Sambisa Forest and adjoining areas along the common borders with Cameroon. Troops of the Nigerian Army remain part of the multinational Joint Task Force, and we are a major contributor to the success of Operation Amni Fakat in the Lake Chad Basin. Troops of the Nigerian Army deployed on other ongoing operations such as Operation Safe Haven, Delta Safe, Sharandaji, Awate, and Operation Wild Stroke have continued to perform their tasks professionally. Over the second and third quarters of the year, we also identified the need to support federal government's efforts at encouraging internally displaced persons to return to their ancestral homes. To this end, we conducted Operation Last Hold, which was designed to further degrade the Boko Haram terrorists, facilitate the relocation of internally displaced persons to their communities, and to promote civil-military relations. The operation culminated in the Nigerian Army Day celebration 2018, during which we were privileged to have Mr. President in attendance in Monguno. By the end of Operation Last Fall, over 5,000 internally displaced persons returned back to their communities in northern Borno. As the nation moves towards the 2019 general elections, the Nigerian Army is conducting Operation Safe Conduct to support other security agencies during the period of elections in the country. The Nigerian Army activated the operation on 14 July 2018 during the elections in Ekiti and Osun states, and it was a huge success. We intend to replicate the successes achieved during the 2019 general elections because we believe that a secure electoral process will play a critical role in safeguarding our democracy in the future. As the Nigerian Army plays its role to safeguard democracy, all Nigerian Army personnel are enjoined to ensure that necessary steps are taken in all circumstances to prevent any act that is inimical to the unity and stability of our country. Thus, as political activities unfold towards the 2019 general elections, general officers commanding and field commanders at all levels are enjoined to continue to remind officers and soldiers under their command to remain non-partisan and be guided by the stipulated code of conduct in the discharge of their duties. In 2018, the Nigerian Army witnessed a lot of reorganization and redeployment in a bid to improve our overall operational responsiveness and professionalism. Just 2 weeks ago, I approved the redeployment of some field and operational commanders in order to inject new ideas in the command and control structure in various Nigerian Army operations across the country. We are also reorganizing to align with some of our current realities. It is my belief that the Nigerian Army must start to plan and strategize on how to end the operations in the Northeast. To this end, I have directed for a change from a wholly defensive posture to one where we defend in numbers and conduct offensive operations in smaller packets to simultaneously in different fronts. I must also add that no army can ever have enough equipment to conduct its operations. Hence, it is incumbent on all commanders and senior leaders of the Nigerian Army to recognize that we are involved in asymmetric warfare, which calls for dynamism and flexibility if we are to succeed with minimal casualties. Therefore, commanders are to ensure that they show leadership at all times and continuously adapt with changing situations in order to surmount adversity in the conduct of operations. In the area of training, we have expanded our in-theater training for troops in the front lines to afford them the required capabilities to operate and conduct effective operations. Special attention was also given to providing local and foreign training opportunities for all cadre of officers and soldiers. In the year 2018 alone, a total of 156 personnel have attended foreign courses, while 2,390 have attended local courses and training programs, ranging from master's degree programs to workshops and conferences. The provision of adequate health care to Nigerian Army personnel and their families has continued to remain one of my priorities. From January this year to date, 36 officers, 144 soldiers, and 7 family members of personnel have benefited in the Nigerian Army medical evacuation both within and outside the country. Currently, there are 12 patients and 12 escorts in India receiving treatments. Most of these are casualties from the Northeast. The Nigerian Army has also hosted over 300 local and international conferences, seminars, or summits, either solely or in conjunction with other bodies. One of these was the successful co-hosting of the African Land Forces Summit in conjunction with the United States Army Africa. This conference had in attendance over 43 Army chiefs within Africa, as well as Army/Defense staff from the United States of America, Brazil, Canada, France, United Kingdom, and North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The African Land Forces Summit provided an arena for African Army chiefs and defense experts to discuss operations and strategies that will strengthen African defense and security. The deliberations during the African Land Forces Summit gave us a new approach towards tackling some of the security challenges in our country. We are grateful to Mr. President for granting approval for the Nigerian Army to host this very important conference. In the course of 2018, the Nigerian Army has consolidated on its drive in the area of research and development in order to improve on our homegrown capacity to innovate, produce, and maintain some of our core requirements. In this regard, we have encouraged and supported all Nigerian Army officers and soldiers who have innovative ideas and competencies. We have also resumed full collaboration with the Defense Industries Corporation for needed parts and small arms and ammunition. We have so far gotten the delivery of over 5 million rounds of 7.62 millimeter by 39 special. This is a great stride in the defense complex or defense industrial complex. We thank you, Mr. President. Similarly, the Nigerian Army is partnering with several companies in Nigeria, including Innoson Motors, Proforce Limited, and Nigeria Machine Tools, among others, towards the production of light and heavy armored vehicles, critical equipment, as well as protective clothing for Nigerian Army troops. These collaborations have led to the development of what we call the TYB rover, the infantry patrol vehicle, and the Beyond helicopter, among several other equipment. We are also engaging some foreign technical companies and original equipment manufacturers to help us repair and refurbish some of our heavier and more delicate platforms. These in-house efforts are being done to complement the support that we have received from the federal government in the area of equipment procurement. So far, the Nigerian Army has taken delivery of several quantities of platforms, ammunition, and other needed equipment for the Nigerian Army. And of course, we will still need more. I want to seize this opportunity to thank Mr. President for approving the purchase of this equipment. The year 2018 has been eventful, and my address will not be complete without mentioning some of the new developments that have taken place within the year. The Nigerian Army established the Nigerian Army Women Corps to develop female officers and soldiers that can be employed to optimize their capabilities. The Nigerian Army University Bill has been approved, established, and has commenced its academic programs. The Nigerian Army Vehicle Manufacturing Company was also established to support our strides in vehicle manufacturing. The Nigerian Army has also commenced direct training for personnel to acquire sufficient knowledge and communication skills in the 3 major Nigerian languages to better fit in anywhere they may be deployed. The Nigerian Army has also established the first ever cyber command. The command will effectively tackle the fake news against the Nigerian Army and the country, and also secure our cyber domain from hostile elements. In spite of our very many successes, the Nigerian Army is not without its challenges and setbacks. Despite the recent setback in Metele, our successes still manifest from our operations in the central parts of the country up to the northern fringes of Borno State. You will notice that 157 Battalion located in Metele, which was recently dislodged, unfortunately, with some casualties. This unit is equally part of the multinational joint task force, and all efforts are being made by the multinational joint task force efforts to ensure the complete welfare of the casualties as well as its effective operationalization. The presentation that will be made in a few minutes will bring out graphically our successes. Some of the Nigerian Army challenges are related to insinuations of human rights abuses, which have tended to dent our image in the eyes of the general public and the international community. It is necessary to reiterate the Nigerian Army stance as professionals that we are guided by the extant rules of safeguarding human rights, human security, and human dignity, under the concept of the responsibility to protect. To this end, we have established human rights desk offices in all Nigerian Army formations for speedy attention to human rights allegations. Furthermore, just last week, the Nigerian Army Law Seminar was held by the Directorate of Legal Services Army with the theme, "The Place of the Law in Counter-Terrorism and Counter-Insurgency Operations in Nigeria." The major objective of the law seminar was to improve on the existing synergy between the Nigerian Army Legal Services and the Nigerian judiciary, bringing to fore a better understanding and appreciation of the specialist and technical nature of military operations vis-à-vis the law to our civilian legal professionals in the judiciary. At this point, permit me to implore all of us to spare a thought for the brave men and women of the Nigerian Army who paid the supreme price for the security of Nigeria. We must also continue to support the families of these brave officers and soldiers and pray that their souls rest in perfect peace. Amen. The Nigerian Army is looking ahead into the year 2019. We envisage in our projections the planning and conduct of exercises and operations in various parts of the country, similar to the ones conducted throughout this year. Training shall be vigorously pursued at all levels as our professional calling of duty demands. The exercises and operations embarked upon this year, 2018, were geared towards creating a peaceful and stable environment for the upcoming 2019 general elections. I wish to state that my projections for the Nigerian Army in the coming year are expected to surpass the achievements of this year, 2018. The areas observed with lapses will be improved upon, and I charge all participants of this esteemed conference to please make meaningful contributions that will be added to our overall projections for the year 2019. The Nigerian Army could not have attained this feat without the support of our political leaders. Cooperation from sister services and other organizations. Accordingly, I wish to recognize and express my sincere gratitude to Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. I want to also appreciate my Honorable Minister, the Minister of Defense, and indeed other ministers, the Chief of Defense Staff, and my colleagues, service chiefs, serving and retired, as well as heads of other security agencies and the media. I cannot also thank members of the National Assembly enough, especially our committees on Army and Defense in both chambers. We sincerely thank you for all your oversight functions. I sincerely wish to thank law-abiding and concerned Nigerians, the Nigerian public, for their support to the Nigerian Army. My sincere and esteemed appreciation goes to His Excellency, the Executive Governor, the government, and the good people of Borno State for hosting the Nigerian Army to this conference, as well as supporting the Nigerian Army in its endeavors. I want to join you, Your Excellency, to continue to partner with the Nigerian Army and encourage law-abiding citizens to have confidence in the nation's security agencies. May I also thank the governors here represented for finding time to honor our invitation. For our esteemed royal fathers, we sincerely appreciate you all for your fatherly guidance and for being highly responsible custodians of the people's culture and traditions. The Nigerian Army will continue to respect the traditional institutions towards effective civil-military relations. Finally, it is with a high sense of responsibility and respect that I humbly express the Nigerian Army's profound gratitude once again to the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, for his invaluable support to the Nigerian Armed Forces in general and to the Nigerian Army in particular. On behalf of officers and soldiers of the Nigerian Army, I once more pledge our total commitment to the defense of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and indeed our unflinching loyalty. I wish to respectfully reassure Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, that we will remain resolute and committed to the defense of the democratic governance of Nigeria. The Nigerian Army will continue to remain apolitical, professional, and responsive in the discharge of its constitutional roles. On the final note, I want to once again welcome you all to the Chief of Army Staff's Annual Conference 2018. Thank you and God bless.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Chukwudi Yusuf Buratai, just gave an extensive overview of the significant breakthrough recorded by the Nigerian Army in the year under review, as well as projections for the incoming year. He also reaffirmed the federal government, Nigerians, and indeed international communities of the Nigerian Army's unwavering commitment in living up to expectations, especially in terms of discharging its primary responsibility of defending the territorial integrity of the country.
Your Excellency, the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari DC Abar, Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State, Honorable Kashim Shatima, Chairman, House Committee on Defense, members of the National Assembly here present, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps and Defense Advisors here present, the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, representative of the Service Chief and Inspector General of Police, former Chief of Army Staff here present, our guest lecturer, Lieutenant General C.I. Obiako, retired, former military advisor to United Nations Secretary General, principal staff officers from Defense and Service Headquarters, Theater Commander Operation Lafia Dole, and other commanders of various military operations, co-commanders, general officers commanding, senior military officers serving and retired, head of security and paramilitary institutions, members of the academia, captains of industries, participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm highly honored to be in your midst here in Maiduguri at the opening ceremony of this year's Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference for the year 2018. The Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference is an avenue to reassess the preparedness and operational readiness of the Nigerian Army in carrying out its constitutional role and in aid to civil authority. I'm hopeful that the deliberations during the conference will generate new strategies for enhancing stability in our country and greatly assist you in charting a right course in the Nigerian Army in the coming year 2019. In line with the Ministry of Defense core mandate of maintaining men of the Nigerian Armed Forces in a state of combat readiness on land, sea, and air, I want to passionately appreciate most sincerely the President and Commander-in-Chief for his quick intervention in the approval of funds for the immediate and emergency procurement of critical equipment from original equipment manufacturers on government-to-government basis. We are indeed most grateful for the enormous support given to the armed forces in handling this series of security challenges confronting our nation. One major concern of the Ministry of Defense challenge is the drive to achieve jointness and unity of effort among the three services, especially in the conduct of various ongoing operations within the country. I must commend the Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chief for putting in place measures to achieve. However, more need to be done on the achievements so far, attained such that operation on ground reflects that jointness in all ramifications it requires. Let me also congratulate the Nigerian military for the critical role it played in ensuring the defense and security of our dear country, Nigeria. This has been made possible by visionary leadership and the direction of our noble President, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, especially in the area of addressing the security challenges in the country. I'm bold to say that due to the doggedness of the officers and the men of the armed forces of Nigeria and the Nigerian army in particular, no local government area is being held by Boko Haram terrorists as a date. I therefore want to implore you to continue in dismantling the terrorists and incident within our country. Despite the effort of the military, there has been a resurgence of terrorist activities in the Northeast in recent months. It is imperative to state that the activities of Boko Haram are being curtailed to the barest minimum in adherence to Commander-in-Chief directives. I'm confident in the capability of our armed forces to dismantle the Boko Haram terrorists, which must be achieved soonest. As you all know, Boko Haram is no longer homogeneous, but splintered and metamorphosed into various groups similar to what is being called international terrorist organizations like State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS, with activities across the countries of Lake Chad Basin. In this regard, my recent visit to Chad and Niger was in continuation with the consultation with the Ministers of Defense of multinational joint task force countries, which I'm the chairman. Our aim is to strengthen the operations of the multinational joint task force to enable achieve its mandate of eliminating terrorism within the responsibility areas of the countries of Lake Chad, in line with Mr. President's directives. Permit me also to use this opportunity to commiserate with the armed forces and the families of those personnel who have paid their supreme price to keep the country safe, which is one of the core mandates of my ministry, and to implore the service chiefs to ensure that those wounded in action are given the best medical attention possible. I assure you that the federal government is taking measures to comprehensively address the circumstances that led to loss of these gallant officers with new ideas and strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, it is pertinent to emphasize here that as we approach 2019 general elections, the armed forces must remain professional in carrying its constitutional roles. Remember that this was the oath you swore on joining the military. Accordingly, you must shun every form of politicking in conduct of your responsibilities and in aid to civil authority. Let me boldly state here that the military has been the unifying factor of our nation since independence. At this point, let me also again appreciate Mr. President for his commitment and ensuring lasting peace and security is being restored in the country. I also urge the Chief of Defense Staff and the Service Chief not to relent their effort in steering the leadership of our various services. Finally, those of you who hold the ranks of general and warrant officers, you must speak the truth to yourselves and advise the services accordingly. The armed forces of Nigeria must retain its credibility in the face of battlefields and to also crave the indulgence of our Commander-in-Chief to please continue to take our armed forces to the next level in terms of equipment and professionalism accordingly. On this note, I wish a successful Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference 2018. I thank you most sincerely.
Thank you very much, sir.
for that wonderful address. I will crave the indulgence of the participants once more to encourage the Honorable Minister of Defense with another round of applause. Thank you, sir. With this, I would like to...
Nigeria's Minister of Defense, there, Mansour Dan Ali, appreciating the federal government for providing the necessary wherewithal, which he explains has further strengthened the armed forces, particularly the ongoing onslaught against Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast region.
Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, members of the National Assembly present here, the Ministers of Defense and Service Chiefs, the cream de la creme of the Nigerian Army, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to stand on established protocol. It's my singular honor and privilege to wish the Nigerian Army a very successful Chief of Army Staff Conference 2018. To paraphrase John F. Kennedy, say to some generations much expected. I believe that this generation of Nigerian Army officers are I had had to interact with a wide spectrum of the officers here. They are brimming with ideas. They are men of letters. And I believe that while you see challenges, you see opportunities. When they throw lemon at you, you make lemonade. I believe that the challenges we are currently facing also provides us opportunities to re-engineer our society into a better place. We commiserate with you over the setbacks encountered, but I want to assure you that each drop of our blood shed by the enemy, trailing rivulets to the graveyard, shall like rose planted in spring, shall sprout 1,000 limbs to bear arms. You can see why there is the will, there is always the way. Things may be tough. Tough times do not last forever, tough people do. No matter how long the night is, it must give way to the light of the dawn. I want to congratulate the Nigerian Army. And I believe that the cream de la creme assembled here will cross-pollinate your ideas and come up with robust platforms of addressing our core challenges. The problems of Boko Haram are complex, composite, and interwoven. And for us to solve the problem, there is a need for a holistic approach encompassing the security, the political, and the military. Beneath the mayhem of Boko Haram, Your Excellency, underneath the nihilism lies the underlying cause, which is extreme poverty. There is an incestuous relationship between economy, ecology, and climate change in the Lake Chad region. I want to commend you, Your Excellency, for addressing the challenges of the Lake Chad, especially over the issue of the recharging of the Lake Chad, which has shrunk from a size of 25,000 square kilometers to less than 2,000 square kilometers now. On our own part, Your Excellency, I want to assure you that we'll play our own part of the bargain. We'll support the civilian JTF. We'll support in fighting poverty. And the enabler, a precursor and a major catalyst for development is education. We are investing massively, crazily on education, and inshallah in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks we'll invite you to commission at least 10 mega schools in Maiduguri alone. Your Excellency, we harvested, based on the recovery and peace building assessment conducted by the in partnership with the European Union and the Presidency, in Borno State alone, we harvested a total of 54,911 widows and 52,311 orphans. And these widows and orphans are potential time bombs. We either take care of them, or there will be the Frankenstein monsters that will take care of us 10, 15 years down the line. This is why we're investing massively in job creation, in education, which I said is the greatest enabler. Because through education, the son of a peasant can be a celebrated icon within a generation. So I want to once again thank you. I want to once again commiserate with you over your travails. But believe me, we have crossed the Rubicon, and we are on a path to sustain peace. We have been in the peak of it. Before President Muhammadu Buhari assumed the mantle of leadership in this country, nobody could venture out of Maiduguri beyond a radius of 10, 15 kilometers. If you venture out, you are in Boko Haram territory. Maiduguri View Road was off limits. Nobody could move beyond Dalwa. Maiduguri, Gamborungara, Ngom was the end of Nigeria. Along Maiduguri, Bama, Banki, Goza Road, Konduga was our end point. Tungushe is the end of Nigeria, along Maiduguri, Monguno Road. The only accessible road to Maiduguri was the Maiduguri-Kano road that was itself being attacked periodically. Yes, we cannot play the ostrich. We have challenges. It's undeniable. But we have to acknowledge the mileage covered. We have crossed the Rubicon. We have crossed the Rubicon, and by the grace of God, we are on a path to sustain peace. We have accomplished a lot, and by the grace of God, in the coming weeks and months, we shall accomplish a lot. We have started seeing the results. On Saturday, distinguished Senator Mohamed Ali Ndume and I had about 45 minutes conversation with Mr. President, and we have started seeing the results. This is why I want to call on my political friends. Let's stop grandstanding. This is a grave national issue that requires all of us to coalesce into a single force to fight our common challenge of insecurity. I want to once again congratulate the Nigerian Army. I want to thank Mr. President for listening to us, for hearkening to our yearnings, for coming to Maiduguri to officially open the Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference 2018. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.
Distinguished participants, I will crave your indulgence to once more please put your hands together for His Excellency, for this wonderful and heartwarming remarks. And Your Excellency, if you remember the roads Maiduguri Damatru every day, I believe Colonel Babaloda is here, every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, either Benishek Market or Minok, there will always be attacked, talk less of the suicide bombings in Monday Market. Please, another round of applause for the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So with this, we are gradually approaching the next item on the program, which is presentation on the Nigerian Army counter-insurgency operations in the Northeast for the past 3 years, that is from 2015 to date, the journey so far. And to lead us into this aspect is no other person than Major General L.A. Adeoshu, the Chief of Training and Operations Army. All right, sir. Okay, sir. So may I invite the Chief of Army Staff to formally introduce this aspect of the program before calling the Chief of Training and Operations. The Chief of Army Staff, sir, please.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished guests. Well, the next presentation will take us through from the beginning. But before then, as from the beginning of Mr. President's directive for us to really turn around the situation in the Northeast and indeed other parts of the country. We have graphic presentation, and I will call for your indulgence to please pay very attention to see where we were, what we have done, and where we are now. I'm happy the executive governor of Borno State did give a, in a nutshell, concise perspective of really what we've gone through. But I believe at the end of this presentation, you will be convinced, and I believe everybody here will have a more positive and more appreciative mind to say that the armed forces of Nigeria, the Nigerian army, and indeed all the security agencies have done this country proud. And I assure you that where we stopped, we'll never go back. I want to assure you, Mr. President, that where we are, we will not go back. We'll further consolidate and deal with these criminal elements. They are no longer Boko Haram as far as I'm concerned. They are a combination of the local criminals in the name of ISIS, or you may still call them, faction of the Boko Haram, as well as other rebels within our neighbors. But be rest assured, we will not rest on our hours until we deal with them appropriately. On this note, Major General Elo Adeosun started it here in July 2015. He was the General Officer commanding 7th Division. Then there was no Theta Command. It was the division that was responsible for the operation of then Zaman Lafia, now Operation Lafia Dole. We started with him, Operation Lafia Dole, and he knew what was on the ground, and he has seen the difference now. I tell you, 2015, you can see the army officers in uniform. We had never achieved this uniformity before 2015. But today, out of 100, you see 100, same uniform. But before, out of 10, you will see probably 7 different shades of uniform, or different brands from different countries. But today we have achieved 99% level of uniformity in our dressing, in our equipment, into our maintenance, and a lot of other factors. So, Major Ali Adeosun, come and continue with the presentation. Thank you, Your Excellency.
It might interest you to know that the Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference usually brings commanders from various military operations across Nigeria together, former service chiefs, as well as retired senior military officers to brainstorm, share experiences, and also provide a blueprint towards taking the Nigerian Army to the next level. This year's conference is, however, not an exception, as it has attracted high-ranking military officers and other eminent Nigerians, as you can see.
The journey so far at this auspicious occasion of the Chief of Army Staff Training Conference 2018. At the peak of the Boko Haram terrorist insurgency in the year 2014, the country had recorded over 100,000 deaths, more than 2 million people displaced, and over $9 billion, that is 3.2 trillion naira worth of destroyed infrastructure all over the Northeast. Also, Boko Haram extended its activities to armed robbery, illegal taxation, and levying of locals in the 3 major states where it was festing its activities, that is Yobe, Borno, and Adamawa states, respectively. Public relations was happening to the slides. Public relations, slide, please. But it has to be where the eye table as well as the audience can see it. We did the rehearsal this morning. What's happening? Excuse me, if it means moving this right to the center, you have to do it now. Look for the cable and join it. No. Can't you bring this one down here and turn the... Okay. Okay. Well, it has been my plan to use the slides to do the briefing so that it can be very graphic and very detailed without plenty words. As at 2011, starting with the preamble, we know what it was and how deep Boko Haram was beyond the epicenters in the northeast, deep into other areas within Nigeria. In Kano, in Bauchi, in Abuja, in all the places, we know how they were carrying out terrorist bombings, including police headquarters, UN buildings, and including barracks. We remember Mogadishu Cantonment Mami Market was bombed, and so many other places. Prisons were being attacked in Bauchi, in Kogi, and all other places. Military barracks in Kaduna and Jaji were attacked, and so many other. In fact, our dear president, then as an aspirant, his convoy was attacked in Kawo, Kaduna. Thank God we have him today. This situation continues in 2013 with systematic occupation of communities in Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe states. In fact, there was a massive attack on Baga in the year 2013, and that attack drew the ire of international community on Nigeria and on the military forces. This spate of destruction continued up to 2014, and the climax of it all was the abduction of the 276 Chibok schoolgirls. As at that time, the internally displaced persons on daily basis increased from 350,000 to 650,000 within the period, an increase of about 309%. Unfortunately, the slide cannot be seen by everybody, but if we look at it, you can see all the area you see the flashes. Those are areas of influence of Boko Haram as at 2014, apart from their main concentration area, which is the northeastern part. You can see the reach almost got even to the southwest. Northwest was not spared. North Central was like the epicenter, in addition to the northeast. At the end of the year 2014, Boko Haram controlled more than 20 local governments in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, the maps cannot be seen by everybody, but if we can see it, the area northeast of Nigeria that is covered by red, that was what the Boko Haram location was completely. There was no presence of military to ward off their activities as beyond areas that we see in blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 places. Those were the places that the Nigerian army was controlling as at 2014. Next slide. Now to the situation in 2015. even in 2015, the attack into inland Nigeria continued. It witnessed more Boko Haram territorial gains also in the northeast. There were penetration attacks across Nigeria. Baga was attacked again in January. In fact, that was the one that led to the end of the then multinational joint task force, because the headquarters was overrun and troops dislodged. It also led to the dislodgement of troops from the military barrack in Mongono, and all those areas were completely being ruled and overtaken by Boko Haram. But by July 2015, over 1,000 schools have been destroyed by Boko Haram activities, and more than 400 closed due to insecurity within the Northeast. However, within the early part of 2015, the military made some gains, especially between mid-January to March. Bama as a town, Gonegari, Kanama, Goneri, Gombe, Mobi, Mongono, and Baga were retaken, especially the military barracks and the towns. But I can say, as the person that was physically on ground then, yes, those big cities and barracks were retaken, but all around, within the local government areas, these people still have their freedom of action, because it was difficult to abandon the towns and continue to pursue them. As we move forward, the towns will be retaken. So that actually restricted the capacity and capability of the military to continue and maintain the momentum. The coming of the present administration and appointment of Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai as the Chief of Army Staff in July 2015, however, changed the tide for good. Operations were reinvigorated in the third quarter and concluding parts of the year 2015. Change in the dynamics within the Northeast and across the country in terms of spheres of control and penetration of the terrorists were witnessed. Also, there was the establishment of the Military Command and Control Center on the directives of our amiable Mr. President. Also, the Theater Command Headquarters was established here in Maiduguri. The Theater Headquarters was established to coordinate the activities of all the formations that were involved in fighting the terrorists within the Northeast, at least to provide a common goal and a central point of command and control and reporting line through the Army Headquarters to the strategic headquarters. Under the directives of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari and the able leadership of Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, cooperation with our neighbors, especially those within the Lake Chad Basin, was enhanced. Multinational Joint Task Force was reinvigorated, re-established with its headquarters in N'Djamena, Chad. May I mention and remind this august audience that Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai was the pioneer Multinational Joint Task Force commander. And I was privileged to have also worked as the commander of the force for some time. As of December 2015, a lot has been achieved by the military. Gaydam in Yobe, Dikwa, Gamboru axis, Gamboru Ngala axis, Madagali, and many other places were retaken from the Boko Haram terrorists. The terrorists at this time resorted to massive use of improvised explosive devices attack in desperation to counter security forces and reverse the trend to no avail. In fact, improvised explosive devices threats have remained an ongoing concern in the counterinsurgency effort. This takes me to the map again to explain. At the beginning, we saw how the whole of Northeast was in red. But as at the end of 2015, many people will now understand when the military, as well as the government of this country, claimed and confirmed that Boko Haram has been technically degraded. One of their primary aim was to acquire territory within Nigeria and maybe some part of neighboring states, establish a caliphate, and run their own government. As at December 2015, that aspect has been defeated and their personnel degraded accordingly. You can see, as at December 2015, they were already pushed to near the fringes of our borders with our contiguous countries. Niger, Nigeria, Chad, Nigeria, Cameroon. And that also led credence to the reestablishment of multinational joint task force and their own conduct of operation in conjunction with all the local operations of the states involved. So as at December 2015, we have their vestiges still roaming in Alagano Forest as well as parts of Sambisa. This takes me to 2016. The focus of the operations in the year 2016 was to consolidate on the gains of the previous year, dominate all liberated areas, and deny the terrorists freedom of action. It was also to build confidence of the population and free more hostages from previous Boko Haram terrorist enclaves. We are also to secure all internally displaced persons in their respective camps. A new figure was also induced in the leadership of men and management of resources to ensure maximum efficiency by our amiable Chief of Army Staff. Also, more units were inducted into the theater of operations to restore public confidence. In the year 2016, also, about July, the Defense Headquarters launched Operation Safe Corridor. This is to encourage repentant fighters to surrender for subsequent rehabilitation. Over 2,000 fighters have so far surrendered on this program, and out of which about 300 have undergone a comprehensive and complete rehabilitation. They have all been equipped and returned to their respective communities through their respective state governments. Also, year 2016 also witnessed the arrest of so many Boko Haram leaders and the destruction of their splinter cells outside the enclave. Khalid al-Banawi, as you can see on the screen, who was the group leader of a splinter group named Ansaru Terrorist Group, was arrested in Lokoja. And since then, that was the end of that splinter group that was supposed to be coordinating activities of Boko Haram from the central states in Nigeria. Apart from conduct of operations that led to capture of so many places in northern Borno like Damasak and other areas up to Malampaturi, Kangarua, and all, Nigerian Army also established a special forces training school in Buniyadi for the in-theater training to ensure troops that are being inducted into the operation can perform their roles better in an asymmetric situation. That's converting our conventional training to the required training for us to be able to do our jobs better in the field. While this was going on, we also recorded a few cases of suicide bombing, like the one in Madagali. As of December 2016, this was aimed at undermining the military domination of the area, and this bombing in Madagali alone led to 57 deaths and about 150 people badly injured. At the end of one of so many major operations that were conducted within the year, which was Operation Rescue Final in December 2016, Boko Haram was only occupying forest terrains inside Alagano and Sambisa, as well as the marshy terrains of the Lake Chad Basin. From the map, we can see what the epicenter of Boko Haram was in the year 2016. It will cast our mind backward and remember the red carpet over the northeast, and we now see all the areas where they are still remaining as of December 2016, we will see that the Armed Forces of Nigeria, led by the Army, has done a yeoman's job in compliance with the presidential directive to degrade and defeat Boko Haram. We should not forget that what we are confronting is not conventional. What we are confronting is asymmetry, terrorism, insurgency, which is different from where you can have red and blue line. And you can see after crossing this red line, I've captured the flag of the headquarters, and the battle is won and lost. Asymmetric warfare is in no way like that. History is very replete with all this. Let's look at our situation in 2017. The major focus of the counter-insurgency operation was to clear the forest terrains of Alagano and Sambisa forest. Okay. This was a deliberate strategy to ensure that efforts were concentrated in order to achieve maximum effects where it matters and to sufficiently restore confidence in the local population. We can see the map. All our efforts and operations were centered in all those areas, including coordination of operation with multinational joint task force. In fact, operations Rawankada and Deep Punch 1 were launched to address this very issue. And the Nigerian Army also introduced special mobile strike teams to maintain the pressure as well as maintain the momentum to pursue the fleeing Boko Haram terrorists. Let's go to the situation in 2018, the current year. Within this year, Operation Harmony Fakat was conducted. Nigeria and Cameroon Defense Forces also conducted joint operations across the borders. And also within this year, between May and September this year, Operation Last Hold to resettle some internally displaced persons who are yearning to return to their homes was conducted. And over 35,000 internally displaced persons were resettled into their respective communities. As we speak, Operation Mazasunso is currently ongoing. This is to further strangulate and decimate the insurgents. From the map, we can see our major concern now is their locations within the thin lines of our borders with our contiguous countries. This has given them the opportunity to cross to the other side, regroup, rearm, and take support from their international allies. This is what has been giving us the current problem. What we are facing now is not only Boko Haram. We are facing support to Boko Haram, both in personnel and equipment, from ISWA, that is Islamic State in West Africa. And they are christened by the Islamic State in various locations where they are, in Libya, in Iraq, and Syria. With this, I want to also pay tribute to our fallen heroes. Our officers and men have been very, very committed to the counter-insurgency campaign. We continue to prevail despite complexities of the asymmetric nature of the insurgency and the obvious challenges. While our troops are fighting to conquer, they face an adversary that is only fighting to die. The picture on the screen is that of some of our gallant military heroes of the armed forces. May their gentle souls rest in perfect peace. Not minding all the challenges, I want to, on behalf of the Chief of Army Staff, restate here that we shall continue to anticipate their attacks, take the battle to their enclaves, to them, not only to decimate their fighting elements, but to complete their capitulation. This we assured Mr. President and Nigerians. Well, some of the achievements, some of them have been mentioned as I was going through the script. I've just asked them to run the slide for lack of time. All the roads within Borno have been opened to traffic. Improved intelligence led to compilation and arrest of leadership of Boko Haram, many of them. Nigerian Army engineers are constructing roads and also maintaining roads within Borno State. We are conducting a lot of medical outreaches, a lot of civil-military relations is being undertaken by the Nigerian Army and other sister services. I want to, on this note, thank Mr. President and the Chief of Army Staff with all our distinguished audience. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, sir, for taking us through on the...
That was indeed a PowerPoint presentation of major achievements recorded by the Nigerian Army in recent years in the theater by the Chief of Training and Operations, Major General L.O. Adiosun. Well, it is also worthy to note that the Nigerian Army, under the leadership of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, has witnessed unprecedented development in the area of welfare of personnel, provision of infrastructure, as well as drastic reduction of
May their gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Amen. Please be seated. Thank you very much. With this, the long-awaited moment is right here. Keynote address by the special guest of honor, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. At this juncture, may I have the honor and the privilege to most respectfully invite the special guest of honor to present his keynote address. Mr. President, sir.
Please sit down. Thank you. Your Excellency, the Governor of Borno State, members of the National Assembly, Honorable Minister of Defense, Service Chiefs, and heads of security agencies here present, senior government functionaries, former service chief, senior military officers, both serving and retired, non-governmental organizations here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here in Maiduguri for the opening ceremony of the Chief of Army Staff's Annual Conference 2018. I know that the venue of this conference was moved from Benin to Maiduguri at very short notice. However, I can see that so many of the very senior officers in the Army, both serving and retired, are here. In view of the recent tragedies, I commend the decision of the leadership of the Nigerian Army in moving the venue of this conference to Maiduguri. The officers and soldiers who are fighting against the curse of terrorism in the Northeast deserve all the attention our country's leadership can demonstrate to them. As President of the country, I am determined to ensure that every citizen feels safe and secure in all parts of the country. To achieve this, the security agencies must rise to the challenge and curb threats to security in our country. The armed forces play a critical role in safeguarding the country. Hence, you must all ensure that your plans and programs meet the challenges we face. To this end, I am glad that this conference is holding at this time because it serves as a platform to assess and evaluate your performance from their 2018. One of the cardinal objectives of this government is security. In this regard, the Nigerian Army's efforts have led to the dislodgement of insurgents from areas hitherto viewed at their strongholds, rescue of abducted persons, return of internally displaced persons, and the gradual return to normalcy here in the Northeast. The effort of the military has also stabilized the security situation in the Niger Delta and other parts of the country, and curtailed the clashes between herdsmen and farmers. I must commend the selfless sacrifices of our armed forces, especially the heroic officers and soldiers of the Nigerian army, who by virtue of their commitment to operations all over the country have brought about the desired peace. There has been a remarkable improvement in the security situation in the Northeast since 2015, when this administration came into government, and you are a major part of the successes that have been achieved. I am of course aware that in the recent months and in recent days, there have been some operational losses in the northern part of Borno state, particularly in Jili, Arege, and Metele. I know that you are doing your best to reverse this trend, and I want to assure you that no effort will be spared in providing the necessary support you require to complete the task. We remain committed to ending the crisis in the Northeast and making the entire area safe for all. I urge you all to keep up the good work. I am also painfully aware that some gallant officers and soldiers have paid the supreme price in the cause of these anti-terrorist operations. While we remember them and mourn their loved ones, I must also convey the deep gratitude and the government and people of Nigeria to the late soldiers and their families for their heroic sacrifices. Our thoughts and prayers are also with all other victims of Boko Haram's atrocities and their families. I will be visiting some of our injured troops in hospitals and also talk to others at their bases to assure them of our continued support. It is a must-win war. I want to encourage our troops not to be distracted by whatever speculations, but to remain focused and committed to the task of eliminating Boko Haram from the face of the earth. The Nigerian Army's commitment to upholding democracy is appropriately captured in the theme of the conference, which is optimizing the operational efficiency of the Nigerian Army towards safeguarding democracy and the national security in Nigeria. As we approach the 2019 general elections, I want to urge all members of the armed forces to live up to their responsibilities and remain non-partisan. In addition, you must all remain vigilant throughout the electioneering period and alongside other security agencies, prevent every form of violence that could disrupt the process in line with your rules of engagement. The Nigerian Army has enriched her corporate identity, organizational commitment, and responsiveness. I also wish to acknowledge the drastic reduction in human rights allegations against the Nigerian army. I urge you to continue to ensure that all troops remain committed to the observance of all international human rights laws and laws of armed conflict. Let me also commend you all for the professional manner with which the Nigerian army, in collaboration with other security agencies, unraveled the perpetrators involved in the disappearance of late Major General Idris Al-Qali. This attests to the capabilities that exist in our security apparatus. I want to assure you that the perpetrators will be brought to book. May his gentle soul and the souls of our departed gallant troops rest in perfect peace. Amen. I want to assure you that as your Commander-in-Chief, I will do everything within my powers to continue empowering you by providing all the necessary equipment, force multipliers, and enablers required for you to prevail on the field. I also want you to be aware that I am currently looking into measures to improve your entitlements and welfare generally. Let me remind the audience that cardinal objectives of this administration remain the entrenchment of security, restoring the economy, and the fight against corruption. To ensure a steady, sustainable, and inclusive economic growth. In addition, our commitment to entrenching purposeful and accountable leadership remains firm because it is the base from which peace, security, and national development will be built on. I therefore wish to reiterate that leaders of all strata of society, including our armed forces, must embrace the wind of change that is blowing across the country for good. There must be cooperation at inter-service and inter-agency levels. To this end, the Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chief must work closely together as well as with other security agencies to improve on strategies that will defeat terrorism, militancy, and other forms of criminal activities in our country. As you appraise your activities for the year 2018, concentrate on the contemporary security challenges facing our nation and prefer ways of surmounting the challenges. I am convinced that this conference will renew the vigor and dedication for which the Nigerian Army is known. I have gone through the conference program, and it is my belief that the conference will be worthwhile if your deliberations generate new strategies that will strengthen the stability in the country. On this note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to formally declare the Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference 2018 open. I thank you all. I thank you all, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
An elaborate speech delivered there by the #1 citizen of the country, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. This is indeed the climax of this spectacular occasion. It is worthy to note that the Nigerian Army, under the leadership of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, has witnessed unprecedented development in the area of welfare of personnel, provision of infrastructure, as well as drastic reduction of activities of Boko Haram insurgents within the Northeast region, among other achievements.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen,
the Chief of Army Staff has been really overwhelmed on behalf of the officers and soldiers of the Nigerian Army for your esteemed presence and this kind words. Therefore, you would like to mark it further with a presentation. May I, at this juncture, crave the indulgence of the Chief of Army Staff to make presentation to the special guest of honor. I was made to understand there are 3 in series.
bari a jami'a kana zuwa can mana ito ku ja mana ina ba ina abun da wannan ina akwai wanda zai leading I will make announcement. Okay, what I want to tell you, I will mention those. Yeah, I will mention those. I can send it to the
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, before we round off this session, shortly after the national anthem, there will be a group photograph outside. Colonel A.A. Yusuf will lead us to that place. However, permit me to mention those who will attend. First and foremost, our special guest of honor and all the dignitaries of my right-hand side, that is on this high table. And of course, members of the National Assembly here present, the representatives of the service chiefs and the Inspector General of Police, as well as the former Chief of Army Staff, our guest lecturer, Principal Staff Officers at Defense and Services Headquarters, as well as the Commandant Nigerian Defense Academy, the General Officers Commanding, Co-Commanders, and the Director Generals of DICON, NYSC, of course, and the Nigerian Army Resource Center, as well as the Commanders of Operation Lafia, Dole, Subhaven, and Wild Stroke. With this, may I most respectfully invite all of us to please all rise for the national anthem.
The declaration of the Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference opened by President Muhammadu Buhari brings us to the end of the program, which was transmitted live on the largest television network in Africa, the NTA. On behalf of the outside broadcast crew, I am Abubakar Muhammad Musa, inviting you to enjoy other programs shortly.
And also commiserate with those
Richard says that when you have mastered fear, you have mastered all. Wouldn't you want that for yourself? From that, we learn already that it is possible to master fear of any kind. Phobia is an unreasonable fear or anxiety towards an object, a person, or even a space. We have different types of phobias. We have social phobias. We have specific phobias. Many people have phobias and they know it. What they do not know is that phobias can be treated. What are you afraid of? Is it the dark? Are you afraid of snakes? Are you afraid of dogs? Are you afraid of driving? Are you afraid of flying? Are you afraid of man? That would be called androphobia. Are you afraid of spiders? That is arachnophobia. What I want to tell you today is that whatever phobia you have, you can be treated for it. Welcome to Wellness and Living. Our topic today is phobia. My name is Thelma Obaza. You know how we like to do it. We go out. We talk with you. What are your fears? Are you willing to share? Would you like to get better? We spoke with you. You told us some things. Let's listen together.
Yes, I remember I have phobia, yes.
I don't think I do. As a man, I don't fear anything. Whatever comes to me, I'll face it. I could say I have a phobia for racial discrimination.
Yes, I do have phobia for heights. I tend to say
when I'm on top of maybe a mountain or maybe a very high upstairs.
No. Based on my belief, I'm asked not to fear.
I do. One time ago when I had an accident, each time I enter a car, and sometime when I get see some of accident occur, it grieves my fear most.
No, I don't believe it. I don't have it.
Yes, I have an air phobia. I remember my first flight. I'm from Lagos to Port Harcourt, and it was during rainy season. When they announced that there is going to be like 45-minute delay, I was scared.
During my schooling days and during my childbearings in the labor room, whenever I'm stepping to labor room, I used to have those sorts of phobias in my mind that this journey is so easy to go and come back.
When I was young, I was playing and I fell from from upstairs. So when I fell from there, the phobia came. At any time I see myself on a high place, I do have that fear of, okay, let me not fall down.
Treat other people like you'd want to be treated, and knowing the fact that we are all created by God and we're all humans and share the same feelings. So I mean, there's no point treating other people other than you want to be treated, that's it.
Because God let me know that I should not be afraid of anything. I should not fear. There are existence of such things I didn't doubt it. There are existence of something that will cause somebody to fear. But with God in me, I have the confidence that those things that come, as I trust in God, I will overcome them.
I don't have phobia. And in regard to that, I'm not working towards it. So I don't have anything to work towards when I'm not interested in, or when I don't care much about what's going on or what will happen tomorrow or today. So whatever comes to me, I take it wise.
Whenever I remember God, I throw it away like woving water away.
Climb somewhere and try looking down. I doing it frequently so that I will beat it, so that it won't always happen to me anymore.
Once you have faith in God, I think it will drive away fear.
When you have a phobia, it means that you experience an exaggerated or unrealistic sense of danger in certain situations. As a result, you might then start to organize your life around the thing or things that are making you anxious. Human behavior is not always logical. One of the strange things our minds can do is to become afraid of things that we logically know are not dangerous. Getting a shot is safe, nothing to faint about. Or, airplanes are safe, right? That is the logical mind speaking. The less logical mind springs up uncomfortable reactions, and this become phobias. Most people define phobias with the phrase fear of spiders, for example, or fear of sharp objects or needles. Most phobias have technical terms that start with a Greek or Latin phrase and end in a suffix, like phobias, for example. Ophidophobia, fear of snakes. Trypanophobia, fear of injections. Aviophobia, thousands of years. But it's only been recently that we have known much about these fears, or even enough to call them phobias. The first written reference to phobic problems that we have is in the works of ancient Greek physician Hippocrates from 470 to 410 BCE. In one of his works, called the Seventh Book of Epidemics, he described a condition in a man named Nicanor and talked about his fear of the flute, or perhaps its music. This music and this flute were handled by a piper, and Nicanor was afraid of the music, the piper, and the flute. Eventually, 500 years later, a Roman doctor, Celsus, used the word hydrophobia, water fear, to describe someone who seemed to have a horror of water due to rabies. History relates this first mention of the word phobia to a Greek god, Phobos, the son of Ares, the Greek god of war. Phobos and his hard-won wars are yet another story. Do you know that fear can make a moth seem like an elephant? Can make a millipede look like a snake? Can make a lizard look like an alligator? It can turn a small problem into a mountain. It can make a lake seem like an ocean. That is why you need to attend to it, because when you fear something consistently, every day, every time, it limits your progress. It limits your ability to take positive steps, and then you must get more information about treatment. That's why we're talking with Dr. Ebuta Agbo. He goes into detail about the different types of phobias that there are out there. There are so many you wouldn't believe, and it tells us that message of hope that you need to hear. Treatment is available, it is possible, and you can get it.
Phobia refers to an irrational, unreasonable, unjustifiable fear of either an object or a situation. So that limits the person's ability to function either in work or play as a result of avoidant behaviors or abnormal reactions when exposed to those triggers. It's quite a common condition worldwide, and if you look at epidemiologically the prevalence in Nigeria, there are different studies that talk about between 10 to 20 to 30%. But if we were to be conservative and to insist on 10% and a population of roughly 200 million people, we could safely say that there are 20 million Nigerians with one form of phobia or another. Phobia can be classified into three major groups: agoraphobia, which is a fear of public places; social phobia, which is a fear of social situations; and then specific phobia, which get their definition based on what the fear is directed towards, either an object or a situation. The cause of phobia, it's a bit controversial. It's not been clearly delineated. However, you have people with different opinion of how it has emerged. Some people have noticed that phobias may be more common among certain family groups. So they have postulated that there's maybe a genetic or a hereditary risk associated with the emergence of phobia. Some other psychologists have postulated that certain exposure to certain stimulus, like into life-threatening situations, fearful situations, can create a scenario where the patient or the person involved develops a permanent and a morbid and an unreasonable fear for similar situations. Some other people have looked at it psychoanalytically, and they've said that there's a certain part of your psychological functioning which we may for this discussion characterize as your ego. So when there is some level of conflict between your ego and your desire to express some activities or behavior that should otherwise have been inhibited, your ego goes into an excessive drive, and that excessive drive, which is kind of protective, would manifest as phobia. So as you can see, the in terms of etiology, it's mainly hypothetical, but there are different postulations on why it has emerged. Looking at it further, women appear to be more at risk. So some people have talked about their psychological constitution, some have linked it up to hormones, but again, it's a bit controversial. But what we know for sure is that if you look at the general population, women are more at risk of developing phobia, and then some people who have been exposed to certain stressful life situations are also more at risk. And some people who are from certain families where maybe a mother or a father has a certain phobia, one or two people down the line may also have that phobia. In terms of manifestation, again, the manifestation of the phobia will depend on the type of phobia. So patients who have agoraphobia will have a complete dislike, an unreasonable and irrational fear of going to a public place, like going to the market, going to the shop, going to the mall, going to watch a movie. Social phobia has to do with fear of being exposed to maybe social stimulus, social requirements. So the person is afraid of being embarrassed. So he's worried that, okay, if I go out to interact socially, I may be embarrassed. So they are generally over shy, so to speak. And that, again, limits their capacity to interact. And lastly, but not the least, the group of phobias that encompasses everything possible is a specific phobia, where the person has a morbid, irrational, unreasonable, and unexplainable fear for a specific object or situation. So if you take, for example, zoophobia or kynophobia, fear of dogs, you would have a situation where someone sees a puppy and is scared of a puppy because the puppy is a dog. But that is distinct from just being afraid of a dog. Then other types of phobia obviously will be claustrophobia. Claustrophobia is a morbid fear for enclosed spaces. A person who is claustrophobic will find him or herself in a room that probably is well protected, but will still be afraid of being in that enclosure. Another fear obviously is the fear of heights, which is acrophobia. We all have a certain level of fear of heights, but the acrophobic person, upon getting to the height, will be so scared and it would prevent and incapacitate him. He may not even be able to come down from the height. Another phobia is aerophobia, the fear of flying, either by planes or by helicopters, as the case may be. That again can be incapacitating. Imagine you are the top executive of a company and you are having a retreat with some of your friends or colleagues, and everybody gets on the plane, but because of aerophobia, you're unable to. That typifies the situation of aerophobia. And ophidophobia, which is a morbid or reasonable fear of snake. This encapsulates a critical percentage of phobias. But again, you name the condition, there can be a phobia. The list of phobias are completely inexhaustible. In terms of treatment, there are several interventions you can use, but critical is psychotherapy. And psychotherapy includes different forms of psychotherapy. You could have cognitive behavioral therapy, you could have cognitive therapy, you could have virtual exposure therapy, and a couple of other therapies. The idea is that you are either exposed to those conditions that trigger phobia, and you are able to you are desensitized from developing some of those symptoms. Apart from psychotherapy, which is very key, the use of medication has a role in managing patients who have phobia, because you may have situations where a patient on account of phobia may become very anxious and go into a panic. You would have to calm the patient down. So there are medications to achieve that. There are medications to also address other mental health problems like depression, and anxiety, which may all present in patients who have phobia, because a critical percentage of patients who have phobia also have other mental health challenges like depression, like panic attacks, like anxiety, also like substance abuse. In fact, in patients who have agoraphobia, it's been known that the level of the rates of substance abuse is usually higher because they are mostly indoors, they stay at home, and they kind of introspect and feel that, I mean, life is not going on so well. Studies have shown that it is here, it is present. We have millions of Nigerians who have phobia. Phobia is not a death sentence. If you get the right help, you may be able to rise from the chains of phobia and live life to the fullest.
In this splendid place called life, where we are all making a mark in our different endeavoral pursuits, it's beautiful when you have experiences that make you smile. It's even more beautiful when we can make these experiences by ourselves, how we want them, when we want them, and prolong it for as long as we want. I had a beautiful experience with golf some time back, and I'm prolonging it so you can partake of it. Eluka and Nene squealed with joy, and we captured it. What would you think if you went to the golf course and you saw a rag and a sandbag? Would it make meaning? Well, you shouldn't miss this.
After the practical training, you now have your towel and your sandbag. Without your towel and your sandbag, you are not qualified to go inside the course. Because when you are carding, you have to soak part of the towel. When you soak part of the towel, when your oga have played, your master you caddy for have played, you collect the club and clean it with that wet part and use the dry part to clean the surface again. That is the usefulness of the towel. This is the most important part of being a caddy. With you being a caddy without a sandbag, you will not be allowed to caddy. With this sandbag, before you tee off, there used to be sand in every tee box. The sand you take and put inside your sandbag and hang it on the trolley. When your master played and there is a divot, there's what we call divot. When you pick divot with the clubs, you open your sandbag, you replace that divot. There will be a piece of grass that will pull out of the divot. You replace the grass, then you put some sand around it, and with your leg, you smoothen it. Without this sandbag, if your master removes sand divot and another member played a ball inside that divot, to get that person piece off, because he will not be able to play that ball the way he wants.
I was competing with my friend, and one person needed to go to take honor, and we're almost scoring the same thing. So when he missed his spot, I told myself I wasn't going to miss mine, and luckily for me, and I sang the ball. into the hole. So I was excited. A lot of transmutation comes with golf. For me, I look at golf as life. I use it to nurture my attitude, you know, imbibe patience and skills, you know, I mean, decision taking and everything. No, it's not for lazy people, you know, because by the time you play 18 holes, you must have gone like 7 kilometers. You know, I don't think it's for lazy people. In fact, you exert a lot of energy playing golf. That's what I feel.
The structure does not matter, it's your flexibility, that's one. So if you are playing golf, you are flexible, you of course you play well, you know, it's something that makes you exercise, you get exercise, and as long as you are playing it often and often, you get used to it. It don't matter if you are fat, if you are slim, if you are small, if you are big. Game of golf, anybody can play golf. It's fast growing here in Nigeria, and we are happy about that. We are meeting up to the golfing world standard, and women are coming. It's a plus. You know, usually before it used to be men everywhere, but now we have more women are coming, more girls are coming. You know, so we are growing.